All right, so get ready, because we're diving deep today. Deep into some really thought-provoking stuff.
Definitely sounds like it.
We've got this YouTube video, Unplug from the Matrix, you found.
Yeah, from a channel called Aaron Abke.
Right, with these two guys,
Yeah.
Aaron and Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see what they have to say about the Matrix.
Yeah.
And not like the movie, right?
No, not like the movie.
But how it relates to stuff like corruption in the world.
Yeah.
And even how it plays out in our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to say, though, this whole war on consciousness idea,
Yeah.
that really got me thinking. It's a bit intense,
Yeah.
but also kind of intriguing. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a concept that pops up all over history. The idea that we might be living in some kind of constructed reality, or that our perceptions are being manipulated.
Way.
This is a fascinating and kind of unsettling thought.
Totally. So before we go all conspiracy theory on this,
Right.
let's break down what these guys are actually saying.
Okay.
They keep using this term, the Matrix,
Yeah.
but they're not talking about the movie, right?
Right. They're using it like a metaphor for this idea of the illusion of separation.
Okay.
Like the belief that we're all just isolated individuals and we're disconnected from each other and from a bigger reality. They argue that this feeling of separation is really at the root of a lot of suffering in the world.
Interesting. So instead of being plugged into a virtual world like in the movie,
Right.
we're already kind of plugged into
Kind of, yeah.
a system of beliefs
Yeah.
that limits how we see things.
Exactly. And they say one of the big ways this illusion of separation is maintained is through what they call the war on consciousness.
Okay, so what is this war exactly?
Yeah.
Are we talking actual armies and battles here?
Not in the traditional sense.
Okay.
It's more like a metaphorical war between forces that want to keep us asleep, trapped in the Matrix,
Right.
versus forces that are trying to wake us up.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see the picture here.
Yeah.
So we've got forces that want to keep us in this limited way of thinking.
Right.
And then other forces trying to help us see, the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the hosts argue that these forces show up in all sorts of ways.
Like what?
Like the media we consume, the education system we go through,
Right.
even the political systems we live under. They even point to things like globalism as a tool
Okay.
that can be used to suppress individual consciousness.
Wait, hold on. Are they saying globalism is bad?
Well,
I mean, isn't cooperation and interconnectedness a good thing?
it's complicated.
Okay.
What they're really getting at is how even systems that start with good intentions
Right.
can get corrupted
Okay.
or taken advantage of by people in power.
Mm-hmm.
They want us to think critically about the systems we live in and not just accept things at face value.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think we've all seen how good intentions can go wrong.
Right.
So how do they say this war on consciousness actually shows up in our own lives?
Right.
Like, what are the signs we might be plugged into the Matrix?
Well, they point to several indicators. One is a constant feeling of fear and anxiety. Another is that sense of powerlessness, like we're just victims of circumstance.
Right.
And they also talk about addiction to external things.
Okay.
Like possessions or social validation as a sign that we're trying to find fulfillment in the wrong places.
Yeah, I think most of us have felt those things at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
So if this Matrix is all about separation,
Right.
where does that separation even come from?
Well, the hosts suggest it actually stems from our collective consciousness.
Okay, back up a second.
Yeah.
What exactly is collective consciousness?
Okay, so imagine it's like a giant energy field.
That we're all connected to,
Yeah.
all our individual thoughts, beliefs, emotions.
Right.
They contribute to this field. And in turn, we're all affected by the collective energy of the field.
Wow.
They use this great analogy, actually.
Okay.
Imagine the collective consciousness is like a garden.
Okay.
If each of us carries seeds of, like, greed, fear, anger,
Right.
those seeds grow in the garden and show up as corruption in the world.
So it's not just about what's happening out there.
Right.
It's also about what we're all carrying within us.
Exactly.
Like we're all contributing to how the world is.
Yeah.
Just by our own energy.
Yeah. They argue that we can't just blame, corrupt people or systems without recognizing those same qualities within ourselves.
That's a big shift in perspective.
It is.
Just like a reminder that we're all part of this this web of life, both contributing to and being affected by the overall energy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they believe that by understanding this, this dynamic, we can start to take responsibility for our own thoughts and actions and how they impact the world around us.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, it is.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
If we are plugged into this matrix, how do we even start to unplug?
Well, the hosts say it all starts with self-awareness, and that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've kind of established this matrix thing isn't like some sci-fi fantasy.
Right.
It's more a metaphor for how we limit ourselves without even knowing it.
Yeah.
But how does that actually, play out in real life? What are some concrete examples of this war on consciousness happening around us?
Well, the hosts actually get into some pretty specific examples.
Okay.
And knowing you're interested in economic systems.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's start there. They argue that globalism, which is often presented as a good thing for progress, can actually be a tool to manipulate consciousness.
That's interesting. I can see how, a globalized system could put a lot of power in the hands of just a few people.
Right.
But how does that tie back to, controlling our minds?
Well, they point to a couple of tactics.
Okay.
One is controlling the flow of information.
Okay.
So by shaping the narratives we see in the media or online, they can influence how we see the world and what we think is even possible.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed how certain stories get pushed really hard.
Yeah.
While others get, totally ignored.
Right.
It's like you only get one side of things.
Exactly. And another thing they talk about is creating economic dependence. So if people rely on a centralized system for, their basic needs, they're less likely to challenge things.
So it's here's what you need to survive.
Yeah.
So don't make any waves.
Right, exactly. And they argue this subtle kind of manipulation. It's actually worse than just using force.
Really?
Because it makes us feel like we're choosing.
Right.
When we don't really have options.
That's a little unsettling.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how much of what we think is really our own.
Right.
And how much is, planted there by someone else.
Exactly. It's a question we're thinking about.
Yeah.
And the hosts say one way to start breaking free from those patterns is to develop self-awareness. To become aware of the thoughts and beliefs we have running in the background of our minds.
So it's that old saying, know thyself.
Exactly.
But how do we actually do that? How do we become more self-aware?
Well, they suggest a few practices that can help. One is mindfulness. Just paying attention to the present moment.
Right.
Without judgment.
That
can help us notice our thoughts and feelings as they come up without getting totally swept away by them.
So it's not about, stopping thinking altogether.
Right.
It's more about watching our thoughts.
Yeah, just observing. They also talk about questioning our beliefs.
No.
Where did these beliefs even come from? Are they actually helping us?
Right.
Or are they holding us back?
Yeah, it's easy to just go through life accepting what we've been told.
Right.
Without really thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that kind of questioning could be uncomfortable.
It can be. But they say that discomfort, it's often a sign you're onto something. They say that real freedom, it means facing the things that make us uncomfortable. Challenging the stories we've been given. And starting to think for ourselves.
That's a pretty big shift in how we see things.
It is.
But if we're all part of this collective consciousness,
right,
like they said, does that mean we're also partly responsible for how the world is?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
And they don't try to avoid it. They say we can't just blame the people in power without seeing those same patterns in ourselves.
So it's not about blaming ourselves.
Right.
But more about recognizing that we each play a role.
Exactly. They believe that real change starts with us individually. As we become more conscious and aware, we actually shift the energy of the whole thing.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
It means our actions, even small ones, can create a ripple effect.
Exactly. And they talk about the power of intention. They say
Yeah.
just by setting the intention to be more conscious, to question our beliefs,
Right.
to act from a place of love and compassion,
Yeah.
we can make a difference.
Okay, I'm feeling pretty inspired right now.
Good.
But I also got to admit, I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about, facing those shadows
It is.
and challenging these systems that are so ingrained.
Yeah.
What do they say about, like, the obstacles we might run into?
Well, they're realistic about the challenges. They
Okay.
acknowledge that our egos,
Mm.
that part of us that wants to stay comfy
Right?
and in control,
Yeah.
it's going to resist change.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's easy to stick with what's familiar,
Yeah.
even when we know it's not good for us.
Exactly.
How do we, like, get past that resistance?
They emphasize self-compassion.
Okay.
It's not about beating ourselves up,
Right.
but about being kind to ourselves.
Okay.
Meeting ourselves where we are.
Yeah.
They also say it's important to surround ourselves with people who support us.
Right. Like a good support system.
Exactly.
Yeah, that can make a big difference when you're trying to make a change.
It can.
But what about the world outside?
Yeah,
It can be a pretty harsh place.
it can.
How do we deal with that
Yeah.
while we're trying to cultivate inner peace?
They actually give some practical advice for that, too.
Okay.
They talk about setting boundaries,
Okay.
learning to say no, right, to things that drain our energy, and surrounding ourselves with people
Yeah.
and places
Right.
that lift us up.
That makes sense. It's like building a little bubble
Yeah, like a protective space.
so we can focus on ourselves
Yeah,
without getting pulled back into all the drama.
exactly. And they also emphasize discernment,
Okay.
learning to tell the difference between information that helps
Right.
and information that's meant to keep us trapped in fear.
That's so important today.
It is.
With all the information coming at us.
Yeah.
It's like we need a BS detector.
We do. We do. And they believe that as we develop those qualities, self-awareness, compassion, discernment,
Right.
we naturally become more resilient,
Okay.
better able to handle the challenges that come up.
So this is starting to paint a picture of what it means to,
Yeah.
unplug from the matrix.
Hmm.
It's not about running away from reality
No.
or becoming some kind of guru. It's about being more aware of ourselves
Right.
and the world
Mm-hmm.
and making choices that align with what we really value.
Exactly. And they believe that as more people do that,
Yeah.
we create a more conscious world together.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges,
Right.
but what about the benefits?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do they say about what's on the other side of the matrix?
Well, they paint a pretty inspiring picture. They
Okay.
talk about greater peace,
Okay.
joy,
Right.
and fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
feeling connected to everything,
Yeah.
and a deeper understanding of who we really are.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's not all like rainbows and butterflies, right?
Right.
What about those elites they mentioned?
Yeah.
The ones who are supposedly, orchestrating this whole war on consciousness.
Right.
What happens to them as more people wake up?
That's a good question. And that's what we'll look at in the last part of our deep dive. They have some interesting thoughts on how the power dynamics shift as consciousness evolves.
All right, I'm definitely curious to hear more. Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into unplugging from the matrix.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've talked about a lot, this illusion of separation, the war on consciousness, and becoming more self-aware.
Right, right.
But last time, you kind of left us hanging.
Oh, yeah.
What happens to those elites, the ones who are supposedly calling the shots?
Yeah. Right.
What happens as more and more people start waking up?
Well, that's when things get really interesting. The host suggests that, as the collective consciousness changes,
Mm-hmm.
those folks who are really attached to power and control,
Yeah.
they might have trouble holding on to it.
So it's not about, like, fighting them directly,
No, not really.
overthrowing the whole system.
It's more about transcending it,
Okay.
evolving past needing those power structures.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They believe that true power, it doesn't come from domination.
Okay.
It comes from liberation.
Interesting.
So as people wake up to who they really are
Right.
and connect to their own power,
Yeah.
those old systems just start to crumble.
It makes sense. The more we focus on our own growth
Right.
and becoming empowered,
Exactly.
the less we need someone else telling us what to do.
Exactly. And they say those who are stuck in the old ways,
Okay.
they've got to adapt or they get left behind.
Mhm.
Either embrace the change
Right.
or become irrelevant.
Wow. So what does that adapting look like?
Yeah.
Do they just like suddenly become enlightened?
Well, not necessarily, but they might start to see things differently.
Okay.
Realize that working together is better than, competing and controlling.
Mm-hmm.
They might even use their influence to make things better.
That would be a big change.
It would.
Hey, anything's possible, right?
But,
So if this awakening is really happening,
yeah.
can we do anything to speed it up?
Well,
Or
or do we just wait for everyone else to catch on?
the hosts believe everyone has a role to play.
Okay.
They say even small acts of consciousness,
Like what?
like choosing kindness instead of judgment,
Mm-hmm.
or speaking our truth,
Right.
those things can have a ripple effect.
So it's not about being a superhero
No.
or saving the world all by ourselves.
Right.
It's more about doing our own work
Yeah,
and letting that spread out.
exactly. They emphasize being the change you want to see.
Right. Like that quote.
Yeah. By living with love, compassion,
Yeah.
understanding,
Mm-hmm.
we show what's possible.
That's a powerful message. But what about all the bad stuff in the world?
Yeah.
The things that make us afraid or angry?
Right.
How do we deal with that without getting dragged down?
Well, that's where shadow work comes in.
Okay.
The hosts say instead of being afraid of the darkness,
Yeah.
we can actually use it to grow.
Wait, how can something bad, like suffering,
Yeah.
actually be helpful?
Right.
They say darkness is like a mirror.
Okay.
It shows us the parts of ourselves we've rejected or hidden.
Hmm.
Like if we're really upset about injustice,
Right.
maybe it's because we feel a sense of injustice inside ourselves.
So it's not about saying the bad stuff is okay.
No.
It's about using it to learn about ourselves.
Exactly. They say by facing our shadows
Mm-hmm.
and integrating them,
Okay.
we become more whole.
Oh,
And as we heal ourselves,
yeah.
we help heal the collective too.
Like that saying, the wound is where the light enters.
Right.
By facing the darkness, we make space for change.
Exactly. And they're clear that shadow work isn't about blame.
Right.
It's about compassion and understanding.
Okay.
And they say, get support if you need it.
Yeah, it can be scary to do that alone.
It can be.
So we've covered a lot.
We have.
What stands out to you as like the biggest takeaway?
For me, it's the reminder that we're not helpless.
Mm.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. Right.
And those choices create our reality.
Yeah.
We can stay plugged in
Right.
or unplug and create a better life.
I love that. It's a message of hope.
It is.
It's about realizing we have agency. We're not just along for the ride.
Exactly. The hosts believe as more of us wake up
Yeah.
and take control,
Mm-hmm.
we create a world that reflects our best selves.
A world of love, compassion, abundance.
Exactly.
This has been an amazing deep dive. Thanks for breaking it all down with me.
My pleasure.
We hope this has inspired you to question things
Yes.
and embrace your own journey of awakening.
And remember, the power to change the world,
Mm-hmm.
it starts within each of us.
Absolutely. By choosing consciousness,
Yes.
love, and
Connection.
connection, we can make a difference.
We can.